All right. Ready to dive into some DNA?
Always?
But we're not talking about human genetics today.
Let me guess.
We're going to the dogs, or should I say one very special dog, Aspen.
Ooh, love a good dog DNA deep dive. What's the story with Aspen?
Well, she's a registered miniature poodle, AKC certified and all, and her report says she's 100% poodle, which isn't surprising, but it's her ancestry that's got us hooked.
Ooh, going way back, are we?
Way, way back. We're talking about tracing her lineage back thousands of years to the dawn of dog domestication, wolves, ancient migrations, the whole 9 yards.
Wow, that's going back a bit. It's amazing what you can uncover with these DNA tests.
Yeah.
And to think, it all started with those first wolves who decided to, team up with humans.
Right. It blows my mind. And I always thought of poodles as these perfectly coiffed show dogs, but Aspen's lineage is giving me a whole new appreciation for their history.
Oh, absolutely.
Huh.
Miniature and toy poodles might be mostly companions these days, but their larger counterparts, the standard poodles, those dogs were bred to work.
Really? What kind of work?
They were bred to retrieve from water.
Huh. I would not have guessed that.
The name actually gives it away. Poodle comes from the German word pudel, which means to splash.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
But here's the interesting part. Even those smaller poodles, like Aspen, they inherited that incredible sense of smell from their working ancestors.
So we're talking about a dog that can rock a fancy haircut and sniff out, what was it again? Truffles. See, total hidden talents. But if they were originally working dogs, what led to the rise of the smaller sizes?
Think about it. Miniature and toy poodles became popular alongside urbanization.
Makes sense. Smaller dogs are definitely a better fit for city life.
Exactly. Plus, they're adaptable, intelligent, and, let's be real, undeniably cute.
Who can resist that fluffy face? No wonder they're the 8th most popular breed in the U.S.
And in Japan, it's the toy poodles that rule. Tiny dogs, big personalities.
I can only imagine the tiny sweaters. But let's get back to Aspen's story. Her report takes us on a journey through her maternal line all the way back to those first domesticated dogs. How is it even possible to trace a family tree back that far?
It's all thanks to mitochondrial DNA, or mtDNA for short.
mtDNA, okay. And what makes that different from regular DNA?
Well, unlike the DNA we get from both parents, mtDNA is passed down only from mothers. It's like a genetic time capsule.
So what does Aspen's mtDNA tell us about her ancient family tree?
Her report says she belongs to haplogroup A1b.
Haplogroup A1b. Okay, break that down for me. What does that even mean?
Basically, we're talking about one of the original wolf lineages that was domesticated in Central Asia.
Seriously?
Yeah. And get this, was around 15,000 years ago. So those wolves that decided to pal around with humans, Aspen's a direct descendant.
Whoa, there's a direct line from those ancient wolves to little Aspen. That is wild.
But they didn't just stay put in Central Asia, right?
No way. This haplogroup went global. We're talking Bronze Age fossils from the Middle East, Southern Europe. By the end of the Bronze Age, it was everywhere in Europe. So Aspen's not just descended from some of the earliest dogs. Her ancestors were practically jet-setters. And these weren't just any dogs, right? Her ancestors are responsible for some pretty popular breeds we know and love today.
You got it. German Shepherds, Pugs, even miniature Schnauzers, they can all trace their lineage back to this haplogroup.
Talk about a legacy. Okay, but let's get to the good stuff. How much of Aspen, the dog we'd see today, is actually written in that ancient code? Like that apricot coat, those signature poodle curls, is that all thanks to her genes?
Absolutely. And her DNA report actually pinpoints the specific genes responsible for a lot of those traits.
Oh, so we're about to get really specific.
You bet. We're talking a genetic blueprint for cuteness.
A genetic blueprint for cuteness. All right, you gotta tell me more. What about her color? How does that work?
Well, her report highlights this gene called MC1R. It's also known as the E locus. Basically, it's the boss when it comes to coat color in dogs.
Okay, so it's like the master switch for color.
Exactly. And Aspen inherited 2 copies of the recessive E allele at this locus. And you get those 2 little E's mean she can't produce dark pigments in her fur. No black, no brown.
So that's why she's rocking that apricot.
You got it. Now, there are other shades of red in dogs, right?
Right.
That's where the intensity loci come into play. These genes fine-tune the intensity of that red pigment, so it can range from deep copper to almost a yellow gold, even cream in some dogs.
Wow, so it's not just one gene, it's like a whole team effort, like a bunch of tiny dog scientists mixing pigments.
I love that visual. It really is fascinating how small variations can create such big differences in appearance.
Absolutely. Speaking of variations, those signature poodle curls, is there a gene for that?
There is. It's called KRT71. And it's the reason you see those curls in poodles, the waves and curls in Bichon Friesers.
Yeah.
It's all thanks to this gene.
So it really is in their DNA, those perfectly coiffed show dogs.
Oh, yeah. Aspen inherited 2 copies of the curly hair allele from this gene. Of course, grooming plays a role too, but the blueprint is definitely there.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about those eyebrows, the mustache, the whole furnished look? There's got to be a gene for that too.
You know it, RSPO2, that's the one. And Aspen inherited 2 copies of the F allele, so those furnishings are all thanks to her genes.
Wow. 2 copies of the curly hair gene, 2 copies of the furnished gene. Aspen really hit the genetic jackpot, but her report also mentioned she's likely to have minimal white markings and be a light shedder, more genetic lottery winning.
Pretty much. Those minimal white markings, her S-locus genotype is responsible for that.
Yeah.
And the light shedding. That's thanks to the MC5R gene.
Music to any dog owner's ears. Less fur on the furniture, more time for cuddles. Speaking of things that make a dog owner happy, what about Aspen's health? That's got to be the most important part of this whole DNA analysis thing, right?
Absolutely. Knowing a dog's genetic predisposition to certain conditions can be a game changer for their care. It's all about being proactive.
Exactly. So what's the verdict on Aspen? Anything we should be concerned about?
Well, out of the 274 genetic health risks tested, she got a clean bill of health for almost all of them.
Okay, that's good to hear. Almost all.
There was one notable finding: copper toxicosis, specifically the attenuating form.
Copper toxicosis. Okay, that sounds a little scary. Should we be worried?
Let me explain. So, copper toxicosis is a condition where dogs have trouble breaking down copper, and it can build up in the liver.
Oh, so it's a liver thing.
Right. However, and this is important, Aspen's report isn't diagnosing her with it. It's just flagging a gene variant that can sometimes protect against the more serious form of the condition.
So not a diagnosis, but definitely something to keep an eye on. What is the attenuating form?
So there are 2 main types of copper toxicosis. There's the accumulating form, which is more serious, and the attenuating form, which is milder.
And Aspen has the attenuating form.
Right. She inherited 2 copies of the gene variant that's associated with the attenuating form. Basically, it means her body is better equipped to process copper.
Okay, that's good news. But should this information change how her human takes care of her? Should she be doing anything different?
Even though this specific gene variant is generally a good thing, it's always a good idea to share any findings like this with a vet.
It's like having a cheat sheet for your dog's health.
Exactly. You can work with your vet to figure out the best possible care plan.
Knowledge is power. I love that. So anything else interesting about Aspen's genetic makeup?
Actually, yes. Her report also reveals something fascinating about her genetic diversity, especially when it comes to her MHC genes.
MHC genes, what are those?
They play a really important role in the immune system. They help the body identify and fight off threats, things like viruses and bacteria.
So the more diverse those genes are, the stronger the immune system.
Exactly. It's like having a whole arsenal of tools to fight off whatever comes their way. And Aspen's report highlighted her high MHC diversity.
Wow, she really did win the genetic lottery. Not only is she a direct descendant of those first domesticated dogs, she's got the looks, the personality, and a super strong immune system. It's like she's got superpowers or something.
Right. And it really makes you think. This whole DNA testing thing is really powerful stuff. We often think about it for like confirming a breed or finding potential health risks, but it's so much more than that.
I know, right?
It's like we're getting a glimpse into the incredible diversity that's out there. Like every dog has its own story, its own strengths.
And its own legacy, too.
Exactly. I mean, Aspen's story alone, we went from ancient wolves to truffle hunting poodles, all the way to those apricot-colored coats, all thanks to her DNA.
And to think, we've only just scratched the surface. Who knows what else we'll be able to learn from a dog's DNA in the future?
I know. It's a rapidly evolving field. It's really exciting.
It really makes you wonder, what's next? Will we be able to predict a dog's personality or like their ideal career, all based on their genes?
The possibilities are pretty much endless at this point. But I think for now, Aspen's story really highlights something important.
What's that?
That every dog, just like every person, has this unique story written inside their DNA.
It's the story of them.
It's their ancestry, their traits, their health, all those things woven together. That's what makes them who they are.
That is so well said.
Yep.
Well, there you have it, folks. That's our deep dive for today. To all you dog lovers out there, the next time you look at your furry friend, remember Aspen's story. There's a whole universe hidden within their DNA. You might uncover a hidden talent, a surprising ancestor, or even some really important info that could help give them the best life possible.
That's true.
That's all the time we have for today, folks. Until next time, keep those tails wagging and those minds curious.